You know what? I forgot to make that phone call. I got busy. I did mean to call him.
She said, where the
I reckon they want to know who you are already.
Well, I can't come back here at 8:30, 11:30, and 5:30.
Ain't important to the business.
Alright, this is a public hearing on the tax issue, and the reason we're having this hearing is to get the public input, what anybody's got to say about it, so whoever who wants to be first can start talking.
We didn't have shy ones this morning.
Y'all had another meeting this morning?
Yeah, 11:30.
Yeah, they look,
That was about the same amount of crap.
had Mr. Cleveland in here and everything.
I want to clarify something from this morning. You mentioned that 1 meal is going towards the plant, pellet plant. Approximately.
Well, it's not actually going to the pellet plant per se, it's got to go to the infrastructure. We got to put in turn lanes on 341.
Right.
We got to build the roads and all that, that's the infrastructure that we've got to do, and that's where that money's gonna have to go.
All right, now, if we're going to have a tax hike to help do that, are we still going to do the bonds that's in the paper this week? Have you read the paper?
Yeah, the bond, that's where a lot of people get confused all this stuff, and I'm not a rocket scientist when it comes to all that by any means. This bond is what we have to, I say what they have to do in order to build this plant. They got to issue bonds, that's just like you buy savings bond or whatever, they sell these bonds to generate the money to build this plant.
All right, why is Jeff Davis County putting the 100% of the bill to put that plant here?
We're not.
Well, if Jeff Davis
The plant's
County,
gonna cost roughly between $90 and $100 million,
well,
and they gonna sell $91 million according to the paper of bonds.
Is the
That
county
is-
responsible for the entrances and the access to it though? Is that what you kind of?
We're responsible for that.
and there's a grant that's been applied for. There's 3 grants been applied for. One of them has been approved to help with that cost.
For the entrance?
$100,000, right. But my question is, it clearly states in here that the taxpayers shall and will not be paying for this through taxes or any other public funds. But now, if I understand this correctly, and y'all correct me if I'm wrong, the Development Authority is gonna sell the bonds, not Hazelhurst Wood Pellets. Our county, the Development Authority is gonna sell these bonds. Now, I was up here the other night when y'all was talking about the school bonds. If the bond, I did a little bit of research today. Bonds, I think, is a maximum of 10 years. I don't know what kind of lease this company's gonna do, but if it's only a 10-year lease at $91 million, that's gonna be one heck of a monthly payment. If this company defaults, like the sweater plant company did years ago and left us in the hole with $1 million worth, this bill will be back on the table for the taxpayers to pay. Am I right or am I wrong?
I'm not, I don't know anything about that, but you need to talk to the Development Authority more about that. But I do know that they sell bonds. We do the same thing with the school.
Right, the school
The
sells
school
bonds.
does the same thing. Well, this is the same thing the school does.
Well, see, that was mentioned the other night, and that's why I
Now,
got
how all
this
that works, I don't know.
because I believe it was Wayne Hall had the concern that the bond was for 10 years. They were gonna go get this money through a bond for 10 years, but the E-Splosh was only for 5 years. Who was gonna be liable if the E-Splosh was not revoted in 5 years? And
Well,
it
that
said
goes back
taxpayers
again,
were gonna be-
hypothetical, you hope and pray in
That's right.
5 years that the East Splash, same thing with school. If it's not rooted back in 5 years, then the school's gonna have to be responsible to pay the money back.
The ultimately.
Or no,
That's
the school will be taxpayer.
right.
Right.
It's the same
That's
school.
It's a big if.
It's a big if.
Prayer.
And that's
It's
a
a
big
big
if,
if.
91 million.
It's a big deal, but all major companies or big companies do this. All counties and cities across the United States do that. That's not where they generate money. That's not where they get money.
I understand that 100%. I have to go borrow money from the local bank down here to operate my business on. There's not too many people around that don't have to go borrow money, whether it's bonds or whatever they put up for collateral to operate on.
When you and I borrow money, we're putting up collateral.
That's right.
These bonds is a totally different deal. It's not actual collateral. I mean, it's collateral in essence, but.
It's collateral you don't have in your hands.
Right.
I understand that much of it. But I don't understand this part. The very last paragraph there says, and no performance audit or performance review shall be conducted with respect to such bond issue. Now, if I understand that correctly, is when we go borrow money from the bank, we are required annually to provide them with financial statements or a tax return. If I understand this correctly, we're gonna go borrow this 91 million with not real collateral to put up for it, and stand good for this 91 million, and we can't audit their books to see how well they're doing or not doing.
But we're not, the county's not standing good for the $91 million.
Yo, you better relook at that
They're
right now.
issuing that through bonds. We're not responsible for the bonds.
I think you better relook at that.
Well,
I'm not a
I may
lawyer.
be totally wrong.
I'm not a
I
lawyer, and I wish, the attorney was here, Carl Powell. to
But on
answer
that, I suggest you go talk to the other authority, because I don't know that end of it. I don't think the other commissioners do either. How all that crap works, I don't understand all that.
Yeah, but we need to know before we go to voting to put this
Well, that's
bill
why
on
we
the
got this hearing,
taxpayers.
when we got your input, then we can find out what's what. That's why we have these hearings.
That'd be a good question to find out, you know, so I think it's on.
I think so too, from what I understood the other night, when they had that man to come from wherever, and Wayne Hall asked him that question.
Because it'd be the same thing from the school, if East Cross hadn't passed,
If it hadn't passed, or we're sweating whether it's gonna pass or not. If it hadn't passed, it's going back to
the taxpayers never paid for it.
the landowners.
So, that would have been raising the millage rate.
That's right.
That's been the only way to pay for it. And I think,
And that's not fair,
Yeah.
you know.
The thing
I know you
is-
gotta generate money somewhere.
Well, it was discussed this morning that, revenue's down, but operating expenses is the same. Mike Cleveland spoke about that. But is it right for us landowners, just the landowners to fill that
No,
fee?
it's not fair tax.
I'd rather increase the sales tax.
About me, does that?
I think everybody has. I know
I know
I
I
have.
have.
Well, why can't we do a referendum to do
That's the only
that?
fair
Because
tax they are.
that's a state tax. The state, if you're gonna have a flat tax, that's between state and federal government.
Normally, you can't make it but like a 1 cent, like a squash, to pay for this referendum as opposed to making it a property.
We could put up another referendum and try to get another 1 cent sales tax.
That would be
But
great.
we're at 8% now,
Oh, we had 8 already?
which is really
Yeah,
higher.
If everybody's paying, it's not a burden on just a few.
That's
You
right.
know what I'm saying? It doesn't matter, it's you pay according to what you buy, and that's fair.
That's
And
right.
I agree with that. I agree 100% with Ron.
And whatever it takes to make that happen, we need to do.
I'd rather pay 10% than go up on the landowners. Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? If everybody's paying the
That's
same.
right.
But now you got this group of farmers through the Farm Bureau that went out there and went to the legislators and got them a gate card. And they use that gate card and we're not getting the sales tax.
We discussed that this morning.
Oh, okay.
A lot of people's abusing that, and I've actually lost a couple of large sales because I would not allow them to use that gate card to buy a transmission for their vehicle that was used on the farm. But the law reads, if that vehicle used on the farm is tagged and titled, he cannot use that gate card. So.
But if I sell a tire, the tire's supposed to go on pickup, but instead of going pickup, go on a family car.
Well, and that's abuse.
That's
But now, what our people in the county's got to understand is it's cutting the pockets, because honestly, the business is not here like it used to be with collecting the sales tax. We got people that's going out of business every day, but we got people that's opening businesses.
But like I explained this morning, our court system, we're having court roughly 3 times a week, just about almost every week. where state court, superior court, or juvenile court, whatever court it is. The county has to foot all these bills with the different courts. The problem is that we're having 3 times as much court as we had 3 or 4 years ago, and we're bringing in 75% less revenue. Because the guys would rather go up there and sit in jail for 30 days rather than pay a $2,000 fine. He just goes sit in jail. We got to feed him back. Well, we got another hole we got to fill up. And this happens every day. But we don't take any near the money through the court system that we used to, which helps offset expense. But a lot of people don't understand that, and just like the same like here's one, there's 40 here, there's one, you ever one of them just about. And, I mean, they just tickle to death, they don't bother me. Not costing them a red dime.
And their taxes ain't no good, just us landowners,
Yeah,
right?
just us land. So basically, we're gonna sit out here
We're the ones,
and
we're
pay
the
the
ones
land
footing the
taxes
bill.
for them to sit up there.
That's
Well,
right.
my
I think we're
question is,
winning.
I live on Social Security, I'm 73 years old. I'm on a fixed income. What y'all gonna do, end up with my land?
I hope not.
I hope not.
Well, it will if it keeps going.
I know what you mean. I'm with you.
You pull my book and you see what taxes I pay a year.
That's where.
I'm
that's
sitting
what
here.
we're
I
facing.
pay right at $4,000 a year on 30 acres of land.
I sit here.
And I draw
my-
$684 a month. That's my problem right there.
There was a lady up here this morning that she told us.
Well, I don't
about
think when
bringing
anybody
Tuesday
gets
night.
my age, they shouldn't have to pay school bond.
That was just.
I don't mind paying my property taxes, but the school bond, I don't feel like I should pay it. I haven't had a child in school since '80. Let some of these others pay it that's getting about nothing. Everything handed to them. I've worked for what I've got.
Well, that's why we having this here. We want to hear y'all's input to tell us what your opinions are to see what we can do.
Well, I run the store for 37 years, and about 30 years ago, there was no man, he was a tax assessor here. He stopped in my store and got a drink. He said, Miss Humans, he says, all I got to tell you, if you own any land in Jeff Davis County, you better sell it, because you won't be able to afford it. And that's what it's gonna do.
It's not just Jeff Davis machine.
On yours, did you go around and talk to the tax assessor?
I had him out there last year. Sure did.
Well, I sit here representing my daddy, Glenn Miles. He's in the nursing home. He still gets charged for school bond. Him in the nursing home, he don't pay his land taxes anymore. I don't own anything in Jeff Davis County. However, I pay his land taxes on his properties. I'm disabled. I have an enlarged brain. It affects my balance real bad. But anyway, somebody's gotta pay it, or y'all gonna end up with it for nothing.
Well, that's what my land is.
No, I mean, it's wrong for a man to be in the nursing home and still having to pay
School bond.
school bond. That's wrong. That is wrong. That is flat wrong. Bottom line.
And another thing I don't agree with is they don't take taxes out on food stamps.
And do what, man?
They don't take taxes out on, like groceries, they don't take taxes out on food stamps. And I know some right, and they're doing $700-800 a month food stamps right now, and too sorry to work. This is what my problem
I agree with y'all. The whole system's set up.
is. It is wrong.
Somebody, we've got to do something
I
about
don't know what the answer is.
it. You gonna let your mom and daddy sit in a nursing home? I hate my daddy having to be there. It's not my choice. However, they still have to pay land tax.
I agree with you, but
That's wrong. It's just wrong. Flat out wrong.
Well, you go back and you think, years ago, whenever I was growing up and all this, you always had a certain amount of people. Back then you had less landowners, you just had bigger landowners. But you already had a certain number of people that kept everybody else going. The problem was you just didn't have as many to keep going back then as you got now.
the ratio's different.
The ratios are a lot different.
I agree.
Instead of back then, you had to work to support one other guy, now you had to work to support 8 or 10.
Yeah, exactly.
And
Well,
that's where the system.
when you get my age, you shouldn't have to work for somebody else.
You shouldn't.
I've worked on
I
that.
agree with you.
When you get their
I agree
age-
with school tax.
But what's the
Their
answer?
age, their age,
I
they
started
certainly
working
shouldn't
when I was
support
5 years
people sitting
old.
up there in jail. These people should not, that my mom, my daddy, and my mother, and my ex-mother-in-law should not have to sit here and pay for them youngins or idiots, whatever you may wanna call them, sitting up there in jail. They shouldn't support them. That's wrong.
wholeheartedly with that. Like I said earlier, this goes up, this comes down, so we got to
We got to
equalize
come up
somewhere.
with somewhat, we
Like
got
I
to come up
say,
with
sale
something.
taxes on a fair tax sale.
Yeah, because everybody has that in it.
Everybody agrees with that.
And I don't mind paying sale tax, I don't mind paying what's right.
Maybe
I don't mind
everybody
paying
in this
my
room
property
agrees
taxes.
with it, but if everybody agreed with it, we'd be doing it.
Well, what can we do different about, what is being done and imposed on our criminals here? What's being done to make anything different than to make them not want to do it again? Nothing. They just sit up there for punishment.
Because it's the way you got an attorney set right there, it's the way your laws are. Your laws is not for the guy trying to do right. Your laws is for the guy that's trying to take everything you got.
I agree 100% there.
I mean, they got to protect him everywhere in the world. You don't really matter if you want to get down to the
You're exactly right.
bottom line of it. I mean, you don't really matter. He can steal everything he wants from you, but you can't do nothing about it.
Exactly.
And that's where the system's wrong.
There was
And
one
believe
the
me,
other
I'm
day,
having that problem right now.
Mm-hmm, sure.
there was one the other day in state court that she was pregnant, and they were threatening, she was mouthing off, and they was threatening her about, we can just send you to jail. She said, do it. She said, that way you can pay for my baby.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And she's right, if that's the way they put her in jail, they would pay for her baby and pay for the hospital, everything.
Yep.
So she was.
But see, some of these people
What are they gonna
will
pay for it
deliberately
anyhow?
go to jail,
If that's what she
knowing
thought
they
she
got
was gonna
to
pay
have
for.
medicine, got to have something for the county to pay for.
Yeah, that's right.
But,
They smarter than we are. I doted they are. They smarter than we are.
Have you
Right.
noticed,
But they got more rights than we do.
Yeah, that's where the
That's
law
where the
right
whole
there,
system's
buddy.
back.
Exactly.
have you noticed in the paper how many, people that the county's having to bear,
Everyone.
to bear it?
Oh, yeah, I see that. And you're right too, those defendants, they learned that system. I had one, I represented one time, but he said, well, I was going back to jail, I ain't gotta pay that fine. They go to jail for 60 days, and all the fines and everything
Gone.
go away.
That's
They
what
got
that's my
job
question
anyway.
there.
And they'll come out of there with a pocket full of prescription drugs when they come out, to go out on the street and start selling.
They'll be able to make money when they get out.
Well, that's true.
But
I mean,
it's sad.
But it's
it's
true.
wrong, but it's true.
Well, I guess we all just need to be criminals, haven't we?
That ain't my choice.
Well, that ain't mine either, but I think they get along better than we do.
Fred, back to this tax increase. You said this morning, one meal was going to the development authority for this pellet meal, right?
It's not going to the development authority per se. It's not, we don't take this meal and go walk over and give it to the development authority. That's not how it works.
So what do you do?
We've got to have this meal to do all this infrastructure we got to do. And that meal has to be allotted for that.
And
to
it
do
said
all
the
the
city bonds to
infrastructure.
do to buy the land.
That's for the building the plant itself. The infrastructure, everything's totally
Well, who,
different.
well, I don't understand, who's gonna own this plant? Because it says it's gonna be leased by Hazelhurst Wood Products.
Frown
So
will
we lease it.
eventually own it.
Fram's gonna own it, and they're gonna lease it. To Hazelhurst.
It's kind of like a lease purchase, when you get, I guess is how it works. You lease a vehicle, so many years, and then when you lease it up, you can buy it back, X number of dollars. If you don't buy it back, they go out there and charge all kind of money for all kind of other stuff. Then that's. But I'd suggest you go talk to Gulf Authority on that, they
You
do
already
a whole lot
officiated.
better job than I can.
Yeah, I just thought you might maybe been that fish over there.
But the whole system's wrong, and I wholeheartedly agree with everyone in it, because I don't know any other outlet we got right now. And that's why we're having this hearing, to get y'all's input. We got to have one more hearing, which is next Thursday, or whatever it is, to see what the final outcome's gonna be. But we have to have these hearings just to get y'all's input, and we're glad you come and tell us what you think.
What process would we have to go through to, do a referendum for the increased sales tax versus this?
We have to, I think gotta have so many signatures to get it on the referendum.
I mean, I check on it.
I've never signed anything for any other sales tax
Whatever it
increase.
takes, I think
I
we
would
need to
check
do it.
with Christie and call back, see what
Whatever.
the process is.
I'll get some signatures for the sales tax.
But it has to be on the ballot.
No,
You gotta get it on the ballot.
Opposed to-
We wanna do it whenever we're having an election, so that expense won't be so high.
Well, the other question would be how
Well,
much for
when's the
1
next,
cent?
when's the next?
So you might have to increase
Election.
10%.
Is
but
it
that's
something
still
every
gonna-
November?
There's just us few.
There's
Right.
a
Yeah,
city
but
election
There's a
this
If you
year.
could increase the sales
Coming
tax,
up.
you would get
City
everybody
elections
versus
coming up
just the landowners.
This year,
But we in the county.
This year, this year.
We have to be the whole county.
this year.
But
I
see,
agree.
what we did is we
Well, I
gonna
do
do to
too.
raise the sales tax.
You go down.
When we are agriculture
What are they
community,
gonna do?
all the farmers have the gate cards, they're not gonna pay it
Oh, it's
anyway.
like this.
Yes.
Well, the only thing I said about that woman is every time some of these illegal aliens, like we talked about this morning, goes down there to Walmart, and it's got this tax-free money, whether they get it from the government or whether they work for farmers for cash or whatever they do, when they go buy their groceries on Saturday or Sunday, you gonna get part of that money before it goes to
Exactly.
Mexico.
And you ain't gonna get none of it on land taxes, not from them.
That's what's unfair.
It's unfair, but
And that's the
how we
ratio
gonna
we're
keep them out
talking
here?
That's right.
You're
That's
not
the
gonna
ratio,
keep
that's
them
why
out.
classrooms are bigger, and
Not gonna keep them out, but they need to find a way to make them pay taxes.
That's it right there.
And the only way you can do it would be sales tax.
that's right.
And you're
Cause
not.
they gonna buy, they gonna eat, they
They'd
gonna
have to
smoke,
put
they
it on
gonna
food
drink,
stamps
Yep.
then, because that's what
They
they,
gonna
that's
buy
what they
gas.
live on.
And they gonna eat.
they gonna do them four things. You go downtown to Walmart on Saturday, Sunday, and you look at what they got in a buggy compared to what you got in your buggy.
Exactly.
They got 2 buggies, I got a piece of buggy.
Thank you, thank you. You are paying attention, Steve.
But they're getting it with food stamps.
Yes.
Most of
There again, no
tax.
taxes on food stamps.
Some of them are, now some of them's getting
We're
out
looking
of
after it.
the
And you go to the post office, and
So
they're
raise
there
your
for a while, and you see them
tax.
sending money to
They
Mexico.
gonna
I
send
went
that money to
today in a
Mexico.
grocery store here in town, had a meeting.
Pay
The
smart.
woman
She had her
goes
two
to-
half
They
gallon
have
of
Goes to
wine.
the beer and the hot restaurant.
But we're
see-
tied down, we got
Right.
cars, we got property here, we got.
She
we
said,
got
Ray,
to
come
go
on,
around
go to
the
the business, we'll drink this wine. I said, I don't believe I want to tackle none of that. So but she paid for it with a peach card.
No, sir.
She darn sure did.
Why?
I sat right behind her
You ain't
watching.
supposed to be able to.
See what I'm saying? I mean, there's no way to win.
See, if
We
everybody
gotta
would do
put our
what they're
heads
supposed to
together
do,
and come
what
up
they're
with
supposed
something.
That's right.
We-
Well, they ain't gonna do what they're
You
supposed
can't win
to.
it.
So
Yeah,
you're gonna
two half
have
gallon
to
wine.
go around that.
Well, it's just like people goes and they sell that peach card or whatever kind of card it is they
Yeah.
get once a month for cash to somebody else for half on the dollar.
Yeah, they do.
You know,
And they go-
I mean,
and
you
those-
can't
those
say,
go
it's like
back
y'all
up.
say, you ain't gonna stop all
But
of
that
it.
goes back to
You can
you,
do some of
to
it.
every who's putting them cards out there.
The
They're not doing their job. They ought to be checking these people out. I know people right now that gets them, that works and makes more money than I work. And they sell them. They'll take them to the Walmart or the grocery store, they'll buy them. $78 worth of groceries. Let people pick the groceries out. And then they'll give them $20 or $30 when they walk out the door. To go buy pills and drugs.
I'm glad that's
Some, I mean, it's happening all over. But that goes back to the people that
You might understand that wrong, but I don't see nothing about them leasing it from Franklin, look like they're leasing it from the development authority. Let me know what you think.
Can you have us an answer on the sales tax referendum, next? If you'll get it to me as quick as you can, I'll get it on the public side.
We'll help you on
Do what?
When would this, if the millage rate goes through, when would it go through, when would it take effect? Like when, like this year? Oh, next year? So like in December?
Like my tax.
That's the way it reads to me.
tax bills that come out.
But I don't know.
So your tax bill comes out, it'd be higher.
Which is
The
basically,
bill
we're
we pay in
responsible for
December
the
of this
development
year?
authority, that's
Yeah.
taxpayers.
Why don't you,
The
go by and talk to
referendum
Keith Martin,
We're right
right?
here.
The 2013 tax budget.
I asked Keith to come today.
We need to pursue that.
How many deals, just one?
Two.
2.5?
And each meal raises, you said 260?
Mid two sixties.
260.
263 is what
But-
the meal brings in.
Now, what was discussed this morning, and I didn't bring my notebook again, the county collected $1,022,000 in excess sales tax. The 2006,
Those spots.
no, yeah, the old splosh, and we collected for 6 years. The 11 point whatever million dollars that we voted on when we went to the polls. We collected that amount of money in 5 years instead of 6 years, but our tax rate didn't go down when we met our goal. So the county was able to take that money and they do 2 or 3 different things with it. My suggestion this morning was to use part of that $1 million to do what they're wanting to do.
How much is it gonna cost to do it?
Is that sitting in a account somewhere?
You'll have to talk to Sherry, some of that, and then we'll.
It's sitting in the account now?
But now,
How much of it,
the
Chief?
fire department came back and got some of that extra. Everybody wanted part of the pot.
And y'all are ahead of that pot, this council here?
They come in and they've got plans of what they wanna do in their department, and, wanting it, the tower. And how much was that?
Tower, the radio, one of them was $200,000.
The fire department, they needed, they said they couldn't hear all over the county with the.
Then probably all of that money's gone.
Mr. Cleveland said this morning about half of it was still
He
sitting.
said about 600,000 is still sitting there. That's what he said.
About
But why
half.
can't we use it? Why can't we use it instead of, sitting here
The
hard?
state is mandating us to get a jail. We're trying to put money back for that jail.
Money that's been.
In fact, we've
not-
got it built.
I thought we had a separate jail for it.
Yes, ma'am.
We
It's
do.
about that.
You
We
got
do
to
now.
separate. We've had, how long have we had that?
Well, what
And
would
every
that
year
have to
they
do
put
with our
money in
excess
it. If
cost?
there was ever any excess money, they would put it in
But
there.
it's just sitting in a separate account right now.
How much is it gonna cost to do this?
I think we got, how many bank accounts? 30?
To do the infrastructure.
Well, you said, you said 1 mil, which is $260,000, that's what it's gonna take to fix the infrastructure, right? And that's,
Probably take more than that.
How much you think it's
You
gonna
said
be?
one
That
mil was
decel
going
lane,
forward.
that decel lane is gonna be expensive. Well, I don't know what it's gonna cost, but I'll just give you an example. The traffic light up there in front of the old big house, they want $300,000 to change that,
Everything that's associated with it.
just in that traffic circle, I call it. It's $300,000, so you can imagine when you start putting in decels and all this kind of stuff, what it's gonna cost.
So where did 1 mil come from?
The biggest problem is your railroad spurs. See, your railroad spurs are gonna be over $1 million, just your railroad spur. And the railroad don't pay for that.
Shouldn't we have sort of a
That's
detailed
why we
cost?
apply for all these grants, but we ain't not sure you're gonna get grants. We're sure of one, but we already got it, but that's the only one that we're sure of.
Do you
Well, I
guys-
think if all this was presented to the public, it'd be better feelings. Like we were talking earlier, But the majority of the folks doesn't know what, and but we all got to work together to make this thing happen somehow.
Well,
I
part of
still
what
think
we
that
should
sales
do,
tax. if we
the
can-
commissioner sat down and did a report card to the community about the tax part and
Yeah,
just,
they-
you
they
know,
don't know.
kind of.
They just hear an increase in
Our
rate.
best rate. That's all I know, Dave.
20% just seems like the end of the world.
Do what?
If I understand, isn't it a 20% increase?
19 point, might as well be 20%.
Well, I mean,
Based on what you currently.
Yes, according,
according,
Like if you have $100,000 house, it'll be $100, right? Mortgage.
yeah, but, I mean, that just seems like such a huge jump.
Right. And see,
That's like.
what we've said, every year, they go, if they have went up through the years, like a fourth of a meal or half a meal, it wouldn't hit us like it's hitting us now. But everybody tried to keep it down and not raise
When's the last
taxes.
time it was changed?
Did you say 208?
I think it's 7 or 8 that we had a $0.25 increase, and that's the only increase that I can think of other than 0.5%.
but that ain't enough to do nothing with.
Since I've been here.
What about other counties? Are we below them or above them?
There's your comment.
Below.
We fix to be the
We're
second
the
highest.
second highest if we do this
In the
increase.
7 surrounding counties.
That was brought up this morning, I went and made me a copy of it.
Look at Douglas over there, what they have,
Oh, I know.
and what they
Coffee
do.
County's
What
the
they got,
second
look
one.
at the
Look what
industry
they
they
got.
Here's
got
what
over
a lot
there.
of people
Yeah,
don't
the
want.
industry's
It's gonna
they have so
move
much
somewhere,
going on
you
in
just have to lower
Douglas.
taxes.
Yeah.
People don't understand what a meal brings in.
I don't
That's
think
what
so.
needs
The
to be
board this
explained.
morning was talking about Coffee County. Coffee County, a meal brings in over $900,000.
Right, see, that.
In Jeff Davis County, a mill brings in 263 or 64,000 roughly, but Coffee County brings in $1 million.
Because of the number of residents or the
Right.
amount of
Well, that's
land.
the
Right.
value on the properties are on.
So your mill is, and just cause you say, well, their mill is 10 and ours is 20, you don't bring it, the mill will bring the same amount of money.
That's what needs to be explained to the public somehow, to get it out there.
And if it wasn't for the nuclear plant, Athens County would be underwater. Now, that's fact.
That's supposed to be.
And they'll tell you the same thing. The nuclear plant's the only thing that saved Athens County. But these mills, that just call a mill, that don't mean that everybody
It's
gets
the
the
same
same.
in-
One mill's not the same.
Well, a mill's a mill, but
Yeah.
in essence,
What it
the
brings from one
property,
county
the
to
property's
another.
different, so therefore they bring in, you know.
But didn't you say this morning that bringing, the tax increase was gonna bring in